So in 1995, I got my first bass. I would have been 15 years old. What's up, everybody? Anthony here with Reflection Concept, reflectionconcept.com. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you've all been well. Please hit subscribe if you don't do so already. If you want to wait till the end of the video to see if you dig the content, respectable, I'll remind you again. So today, checking out a really cool bass. This is a 1992 Fender Precision bass. And it is not the exact bass I had as my first bass, but very, very close. So in 1995, I got my first bass. I would have been 15 years old. Local music store. I remember coming home from jamming, if you want to call it that, with a friend. A quick backstory. I grew up in a musical household, not necessarily with musicians so much, although my dad played some guitar. There was a bass around. My sister played some piano. We had an upright piano in the house. But we listened to a lot of music. I wouldn't call us a household of musicians, but we definitely were an active listening family. Would shoot some pool, me and my dad, or me and my sister would listen to music from the 80s, essentially. So listening to the Bon Jovi, some hair rock. I was a big Kiss fan. Music from the 70s. I remember listening to like Steely Dan and even earlier, like some Beatles stuff with my dad. Sgt. Pepper's, Magical Mystery Tour, the White Album. Like I definitely remember listening to that stuff. So I was always a big music fan, as my sister was and still is. And my parents were encouraging on the music front. But I didn't play any instruments as a kid other than a few months of guitar before I quit and just wasn't into it. So when I was 15 years old, listening to Green Day and some other punk rock stuff, and I wanted to start a band with my buddy Adam. I took a bass and a guitar over. I couldn't play guitar at all, even though I was trying. His neighbor could play some guitar, so I gave him the guitar. He starts playing it. I just follow the root note on the hand or the position of the first finger, and I'm just following it on the frets, and voila, we were like playing some what I would classify as punk rock. It probably was just noise at the time. So, but I go home that night, and I'm like, I want to be a bass player. I want a bass. A few days later, I think I would have been 14 at that time, and actually for my 15th birthday, my dad got me basically this bass, right? So I've been thinking for the past, under a year of getting an early 90s Fender Precision bass. To, kind of refamiliarize myself with that instrument from that era, just to see what it felt like. B, my dad wanted that bass after I had kind of not grown out of, because you never grow out of a P bass, but as my taste changed, late 90s, active, 5-string, that was the thing. I was developing some skill set on the instrument, so I wanted to get what I thought was a more pro-level bass. Reading Bass Player magazine at the time, that was the stuff. So I wanted to get that, and I had sold the P bass, and he was pissed off at me because he wanted it back, and I couldn't get it back. It was gone. And we didn't fight over anything like that. He was just kind of upset with me that I had sold my first bass and that he wasn't going to be able to play that bass because he knew it was a good bass. Not that it was worth a ton of money, but if it was MIJ made in Japan, it's probably worth $1,300 now, $1,100, something like that. And then C, to you think of like the vintage bass market is so crazy. Obviously, late 50s, 60s, even into the 70s, the prices are going up and up. 80s is kind of slim pickings for a traditional P bass. There are like the American made after Fender bought the name back from CBS. Like there's like the vintage reissue stuff. And I didn't want that because I have two great custom shop basses that are essentially a more modern version of that I love. The Empire 58 basses are just absolutely incredible, right? So I was like, man, early 90s would be cool for all of those reasons. Is it's leaning towards vintage. In 20 years, it'll really be vintage. I don't think it'll be worth a lot, but that's okay. So there was just like, I just wanted one. Scrolling through Facebook Marketplace, stumbled upon one, was able to get a nice, fair deal for both parties on it. And then got it, played it. I didn't love the way that pickup sounded. My tastes have changed and been elevated through the years, or snobbery has come in for sure. So I got this Curtis Novak. I think it's with the B90 pickup in it, I think. So it's like a P-bass pickup, but with P90 magnets in it. Sounds absolutely incredible. Check this thing out. Turn some volume up over here. Running through the HX Stomp, into the Una, out the color box, direct into the Apollo. I mean, it sounds so warm and full. Rosewood board on it. I got the action set up a little higher than I normally like. I've been exploring that, kind of as a reaction to, like, I know Yannick did some videos. Yannick Wisdala did some videos with John Patitucci, and he's been talking about, for a few years now, I feel like getting a little bit higher action. I'm really digging it. It adds this buoyancy and this fatness to the sound. I think the pickup in the Rosewood certainly help that out too. But check it even out. Like when I move my hand up here, it's really big. So full and so good. So that's on the clean setting, and obviously it plays great with all the effects I like to do too. Let me get to a different view here. Little envelope. That envelope hits everything a little bit heavy, so if that was breaking up, I apologize. And then a little overdrive on top of that. Let's get back to clean. I got the little synth setting going on. I haven't even played with this on the synth yet, so let's see how this is. Who else is excited for that Ian Allison pedal that's coming out here in July? That Jim Dunlop synth that he previewed. Man, I cannot wait to get my hands on that thing. Quick shout out to Ian, man. He's the man. Makes like such a great sonic explorer and awesome player. So just giving some props out to Ian, man. Can't wait for that pedal. It's cool. It's just like a different, it's just different than my Empire 58s and everything else in my arsenal. Now, granted, I swapped that pickup out. But even outside of like the upgrades and the sound, it's just inspirational to have an instrument like this back in my hands. It reminds me of obviously getting my first bass, but that enthusiasm and that need to kind of explore and to try and, there's, I wouldn't call it ego in it, but you like, back then it was like, I want to prove to me and to anybody else that like I could play a little bit. And, just spending hours upon hours upon hours in my bedroom, just playing anything and watching the old Hot Licks VHS tapes the old Louis Johnson VHS, the Flea VHS. I remember getting the Jocko one, and the Jocko one being way over my head. I didn't even understand it. But the Flea and the Louis Johnson ones, because they were doing all the more on the Louis Johnson side, a very poor impersonation of it. But the slap thing was just, it was an easy thing to kind of gravitate onto and just like to be impressed by and to be influenced by. So having a bass like this kind of back in my hands just reminds me of all of that. It's very, very, very cool. I'm lucky that I'm able to kind of refamiliarize myself with a bass that very much reminds me of my first bass. Granted, not the exact bass. I'm interested if any of you out there have had a similar experience, whether you've reobtained, let's say, have you gotten, like my situation, a bass that's similar to your first bass or the same model, right? Have you got the exact bass that you know you sold it to someone, they sold it to someone, they sold it to someone, and sold it back to you? Has that happened? What's that feel like to you? Or do you still have your first bass? I'm sure a lot of you still have your first bass. Be interested to hear your take on that and the inspiration that you draw from that instrument, whatever criteria that kind of fits in. I know for me, I can go right back to the feeling, to the smell, to the sounds, to the music I was listening to, and to the music that I was learning, and some of the issues and some of the pain points that I had back then, and kind of work through it. So it's inspiring to think back on that and to think about the journey that I've gotten to. And it gives me gives you that drive to keep pushing. Because I think any good musician or artist or creative mind, you never stop. You never feel like you figured it out. I mean, I don't think you ever do figure it out. You never should feel like you figured it out. It's just peaks and valleys and maybe some plateaus where you feel really good about something and you're onto something else to explore. And then, there's the dark areas where you feel like you know nothing. And then probably the ego takes over where you feel like you know a lot more than you actually know, so on and so forth. But it's just cool to kind of recall that journey. So, again, interested to see if any of you have any similar experience with it. So 1992 Precision bass, very, very similar to my first bass guitar. This one's kind of, let's call it back in my possession, sort of, if we could think about it that way. Pretty cool though. So again, please subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate you checking out this video. We'll see you next time.